All right, let's get started. Thank you so much for joining us today. So this is Donor Database Experts monthly webinar. And this week our topic is, or this month, our topic is when to use NXT reports versus when to call in Power BI. And we will also be looking at dashboards. So sort of the holy trinity of reporting. So just a little information about us. Donor database experts exist to help organizations analyze and leverage their data to make a bigger impact on the communities that we serve. We specialize in data analysis to determine inefficiencies in workflow, identify opportunities to improve return on investment and cost of raising a dollar, and also community impact of philanthropic efforts. So basically, we exist to help you do what you do better. And about me, I'm Marlisa Post, database specialist with Donor Database Experts. I have, oh, it hurts every time. I have over 30 years nonprofit experience working in fundraising, communications, volunteer management, events, and database administration. Also, I've been with Donor Database Experts for a little over 4 years, and I'm really passionate about educating people, training them, problem solving, as well as automation, which is sort of my newer passion. So for today, we're going to look at an overview of the native reports in NXT. We're going to talk about dashboards and then dive into Power BI. So if you are here because you are part of leadership for your organization, you'll learn what's possible and how to ask for it. If you are a new or seasoned fundraiser, you'll learn how to give the right information to the right stakeholder. And if you are a new or seasoned database administrator, you'll learn what you can offer to those who are looking for those metrics. And if you are all of those things, because I see you solo shops, we will try to make your life easier to make your reporting easier and clearer. All right, so let's talk about the right tool for the right job. We're going to be talking about reports, dashboards, and Power BI, the new shiny kid on the block. So with NXT reports, if you've never used these are the canned reports that are in NXT. They're also in database view, and they're really great for formal outputs. We'll dive into what some of the different ones are that you can use. You're going to see that the flexibility is fairly low because these are already pre-built by Blackbaud. So while you have flexibility about what data you can pull into them, in terms of the display options, things like that, there's a little flexibility, but not much. The data source is NXT only, so your database only. The ease of use, it's pretty high. Actually, they're not hard to use. So if you're just looking for a clean, formal report, this is your go-to. Customization, just like flexibility, it's low. You can, maybe tweak some colors on there, titles, things like that, some column layouts, but the customization is fairly low. And the interactivity, none. So these really are just a report, whether you export it as a PDF, which is what most people do. You can pull it out as an Excel file. It can be a little bit of an adventure sometimes, but most people just use them as the PDF. With dashboards are really best for monitoring. And here we're talking about the dashboards that are native to NXT. So with these dashboards, there are some that are canned, again, pre-built by Blackbaud. They're great. They have some wonderful charts and graphs in them. It is also possible to customize the dashboards, and we will talk about that. These really are great for monitoring. So hop into these dashboards when you want to see how you are doing in real time. The flexibility here is medium, especially if you have insights, which we'll talk about what that is. It is an add-on. If you have that, then the flexibility goes up even more in terms of what you can do and show. Data sources, again, it's just what's in your database. Ease of use here, it's high. These are really fairly user-friendly. If you do have insights, the learning curve on that There's a bit of one, but really once you kind of understand how it all goes together, it's very easy. Customization, medium. You can really customize some things, again, especially if you have insights. And interactivity, limited. You can put some filters on your dashboard so you can actually, in real time change what you're seeing in the output. But that's about it. So Power BI, again, this is the new kid on the block that everybody's talking about. So here, of the three, this is one that is not a Blackbaud product. This is a Microsoft product. And with Power BI, you can either link it, I'll say directly to the database. You can link to it also through Power Automate, which is another Microsoft product. Blackbaud really has gone all in on partnering with these Microsoft products. So here you can really get data out of your database, dump it into Power BI, and then the world is your oyster. This is best for analysis because it is really powerful, very data driven. The flexibility is very high here. The great thing about it also, as you can see in the next thing, the data sources doesn't have to be NXT only. If you have other pieces of data you wanted to compare to your data or integrate, you can do that. And so that is really one of its strengths here. The ease of use. I said medium because we all like data, I think, and I think we all mostly like our computers, except those days when you just want to yeet it out the window. There's definitely a learning curve, and we actually do have someone asking the question, can you recommend resources to learn Power BI? I've tried and quickly get overwhelmed. Oh, preach. So it's easy to get overwhelmed when you're trying to learn it. Actually, Microsoft has some really good tutorials. They even have the data files for you to play around with. They walk you through some of the steps. So I would say that is a really good place to start. And don't start with trying to build out really complicated things. Start with just trying to do, maybe one chart. And we'll look at some examples and that might give you some ideas. So my first recommendation would be look for those Microsoft tutorials. And if you Google them, you'll find them. They are on the Microsoft, one of their websites. The other thing I would recommend is YouTube. Actually, YouTube has a lot of really, really great resources for learning. So, dig in, find some of those. They'll even have some that say Power BI beginner, and it'll give you some ideas of how it works. But I hear the overwhelmed part. Start small, start easy, and kind of go from there. Another question, does adding or connecting Power BI with my Blackbaud Razor's Edge NXT cost me anything? Is there a subscription? So the subscription here is not on the part of Blackbaud, believe it or not, they're not charging you. Depending on what you want to do and how you want to do it, you may have to pay for the next level up of the free version of Power BI. Good news is for nonprofits, it's dirt cheap. I forget what it is a month, but it's really inexpensive. Especially if you want to use Power Automate as part of that, then you're probably going to have to do that because with Power Automate, a lot of the features that you want to get out of Blackbaud and to play with that data does require the next level also of Power Automate. So yes, probably have to get a subscription. Good news is it's nothing like what Blackbaud charges you for some subscriptions. Okay, so ease of use, we were talking about that's medium. It's considered a low code product. I'll also say, so Copilot, which is Microsoft's AI, is integrated into it, and I will say it's 90% helpful. I was building something the other day and asked it a question, and it told me to look for this thing, and that thing didn't exist. And when I asked about it, it said, yeah, that thing doesn't exist. So AI, what are you going to do? Customization. So here again, just like with the flexibility, it's very, very high. You can really customize the Power BI charts and graphs and the looks of them just infinitely. A lot of design elements in there in terms of colors, fonts, things like that. Interactivity. So full in that, depending on your subscription, your agency's subscription, people can actually have access to your Power BI. I'll call it a dashboard, and can, just like with the NXT dashboards, see things in real time. And so in that way, they can even play with filters and things. You can build out some buttons that would allow them to, click to filter on years and things like that. However, if let's say that you're going to use Power BI to develop a beautiful report to give to a board member, you're probably going to turn that into a PDF. So in that case, it's not as interactive. But within your organization, you can really have some full interactivity with Power BI. Okay, so I don't want you to think of these as silos. I want you to think of these all as tools in your toolbox. And understanding, I think, how each of these works, it will help you understand maybe how you could integrate them into what you do and report out on the same things different ways. So as we said, NXT reports, they're pre-built, they're very structured. You can produce a custom report. Really, in that case, it's almost more using queries and exports to get some custom data out that then you can build out into something, whether you use, Word, or make it look pretty in Excel, maybe even call in Canva or something like that. So you could certainly build reports with your data that you've gotten out of the database. Dashboards, great for those quick insights and tracking. And then Power BI is really for your analysis and storytelling. So we're going to dive into reports. So again, pre-built, structured, they're trusted and consistent. You really know how these reports are going to function time after time after time. They're really great for financial reporting. And as I've been saying, really great for a formal report. What's really cool is that in NXT now, you can schedule reports to be sent out, via email, to, anyone on your team who needs them, and you can also capture the links to your reports. So that's a really nice new feature. Obviously, you can't do that on the database side if that's where you build out reports now. But I'd say play around with that because I really think that that's neat. In a way, it gives you some of that flexibility that we like with Power BI, where you can have a report kind of just run automatically and get sent to people. This is a very basic form of that, which I think is great. Reports answer the question, what happened? What has happened in the past? What is the historical data? So one of the subsets of reports are analytical reports. We're going to look at consecutive years reports, live month reports, and top donor reports. These are just a subset of the analytical reports. I think for a lot of us, because time is so precious to us, we don't spend the time to go into the native NXT reports and really see what's in there. So I encourage you, maybe on a Friday afternoon, when you have just a couple minutes, in NXT, go in, look through all of the different reports that are available to you. And in the knowledge base, there's the descriptions of what they all do. And I think you might be surprised, and you might find some reports that you didn't know you needed. So definitely encourage you to do that. So the consecutive years reports. This shows the number of years that a constituent is given in a row. Now, you could just, in this report, say, okay, for all of the donors who gave in 2025, I want to see the number of years that they've given in a row. And so that you could just set up right in the report just by using the date limiters. However, you can also pull in a query. So let's say that, no, you really want to limit it to people who have given $1,000 or more to these specific appeals year over year. How many years have they given in a row? So you can definitely here drill down into some data, and I think this could be a great way to find out some interesting things about who are some of your longtime donors. The final report will show the constituent name, the number of consecutive years of giving, and also the average that they've given per year, which is also really helpful to know. You can filter these on a minimum number of consecutive years. So let's say, all right, I'm not interested in someone who has given 2 years in a row. I'm interested in people who have given 5 years in a row or more. So you can use the filters on this report to do that for you. So I think definitely play around with this because I think this is one of those things that we like to know as fundraisers. It's good information. But we think that, oh, I don't know how to build a query to do that. You don't have to. It's right in reports. LIBUNT reports. So in the fundraising world, LIBUNT stands for last year, but unfortunately not this. So these are the people who gave to you last year, but haven't given to you yet this year. Of course, for this year, the calendar year, we are early days. However, if your fiscal year ends in June, not so much early days, so you might be wanting to look at that. Oh, we have a question about the consecutive years reports. Let me answer that before I move on. Can you only look at specific funds when using the consecutive year reports? No, you should be able to, if you don't want to, you should be able to not limit it to funds. If you want to look at a specific fund or some specific funds, you could, but otherwise you don't have to limit it by that. So it can be really looking at a good snapshot of your donors kind of across a time period. Okay, so the LIBUNT report, just like the consecutive years report, you can base it on a query if you want. This does work on a rolling year, and that's important to understand. So if the date range that you put in as your parameters is 7/1/24 to 6/30/25, the results that you get are going to be the people who made their last gift 7/1/23 to 6/30/24. Because remember, it's always looking at the people who gave in that last year, but not in the time period that you're looking at. So that's an important thing to think about with the LIBUNTs. There is also a SIBUNT report. So SIBUNT is some years, but unfortunately not this. So here you're not limited to just that year before, where it's only looking at the rolling year before. Here you can have more of a time span. So if you don't want to limit yourself, you want to see those donors who have maybe skipped 2 years, the SIBUNT report would be your friend. Top donor report. This is a great one. So the top donor report, it returns the top donors for a period specified. And once again, you can base this on a query and you can specify the number of donors included. For one thing, this can be helpful with your 990. Maybe sometimes you need to pull a report of your top donors. This can certainly get you started and help you with that. As you can see from the little snapshot I included here, you can say, okay, I want the top 10. And I want it sorted by constituent name. You can decide whether or not you want to include the maiden name in that screenshot. So the top donor report, really, really helpful. And again, it's something where you don't need to build out a query just to find these guys. You can just use this report, so faster. So financial reports are another subset. And again, there's many of them. We're just going to look at the adjusted gift report, the gift detail and summary, which is probably one of the most powerful reports, and the stock gain and loss report. So adjusted gift reports, it's exactly what it sounds like. So if your finance department needs a list of the gifts that were adjusted from the prior month, this report is the one you want to pull. It even includes the general ledger account information, which is very helpful to your finance department. And also the adjustment reason is included in there. It shows the original gift information and then the adjusted information for each row. Can be based on a query. And as I said, very helpful for monthly reconciliation. The gift detail and summary report. This is one that we use quite a bit. And can be used for a variety of things. So it can show information over a selected time period that you determine. the summaries. So it can produce one report or two reports at the same time, just like it says, a detail and a summary. The summary could be around campaigns, it could be around funds, it could be around appeals. Then it can also give you a detail related to those same gifts that are showing in the summary. So the detail is the actual list of donors with their information. The columns are grouped typically by gift type. And a typical way of building that out, there is flexibility there, is you would have a cash column. So in your cash column, you might have cash, recurring pay cash, matching gift, pay cash. If you want to separate out your pledge payments, you would pull out the pay cash and the matching gift, pay cash into their own column. So for pledges, you can have pledges and matching gift pledges. You can, if you want to, there's an option in the gift type screen to use the pledge balance here. So you avoid in your totals double counting. So important to know that. For stock, you could use stock property sold, pay stock, matching gift pay stock, and gift in kind, and maybe you want to include planned giving. Um, it's really useful for reconciliation. That's what a lot of people use it for. Again, something that you can hand off to your finance department. It's also really helpful for checking dashboards when you're first getting into building them. Because building dashboards, things can go wrong. And if you don't check those dashboards against some known data, you might never know it. So when we build out dashboards for people, or when we're teaching people how to build out dashboards, that's a step we really recommend, is to check those dashboards against a detail and summary report. And they're just useful for spotting issues. If you can't figure out why something is not tying out properly, check a detail and summary report, and a lot of times the answer is in there. So I think it's one of the most powerful reports that you have access to. Okay, stock gain and loss report. Again, exactly what it sounds like. It's information around stock transactions. When the sale of stock has been entered, because remember, your stock gift that you enter, excuse me, that is around the gift amount is the amount, what the stock is valued at when it's transferred to your organization. The sale of stock information that you can also enter onto the gift, that's the information around what, when your organization sold the stock, what was it sold for? Like, what was the total value? And brokers' fees can be taken out of that, all kinds of things. One thing we see a lot is we don't see people closing that loop. We see people enter the gift of stock and they don't enter the sale of stock. You don't need the sale of stock information for your donor acknowledgments, for your receipting. That's really everything that's in the gift of stock. But the sale of stock information is good information to have. And again, it closes that loop. If you don't know where to find that on the gift record to enter it, in database view, across the top, go up to gift. And in that drop-down menu, you'll see sale of stock in there. And then it's pretty clear what to enter where. If at the time you're entering the gift, you do know the value of the stock when it was given to you, and you have the sale of stock details, you can enter it all in the batch at one time. And that will absolutely work just fine. But again, if this is something your finance department needs, very, very helpful. Tribute reports. We're only going to really talk about one in here, although there are more. And that's the Honor Memorial Contributors List. So this shows those who donated in honor or in memory of a constituent. It can include the donor name, addresses, telephone numbers, and other info. It can include the gift amount. I don't recommend doing that, because what you would produce this for is, let's say that, John Smith has passed away and his wife Susan has asked to be notified about the gifts given in John's memory. So if it's just one or two gifts, those you could include in a letter to Susan. But if it's a long list, instead of first of all sending, letter after letter after letter to Susan, you can pull this contributors list and send it to her. It looks very nice. And that's a really great way to say, hey, Our condolences about John. Please see this attached list for those who have given in his memory. I think it's a really great report to use for that. Custom reports. So as I mentioned, if none of these have what you want, you can use a good old query and export and build out something in Word yourself, build out something in Excel, turn that into a PDF. You know what you need. So it's a lot more flexible and could get you to exactly where you need. Let's say that your finance department wants a certain format or some information that's not in any of those standard reports. Um, like GL information is not in a detail and summary. So you could build out a custom report to get them what we need. And we do have clients who use Excel to do exactly that. NXT dashboards. So if you haven't played around with dashboards yet in NXT, check them out because out of the box, they're great. Blackbaud has some pre-made dashboards for you. Pull those in, play around with them, and they will give you some great visual summaries in NXT. They're great for quick insights. They're really easy to show leadership the state of things currently in the database. Really great for major gift officers to see, how things are going because you can put in a lot of filters around what's being shown in terms of funds, things like that. So the dashboards really answer in the moment, how are we doing right now? The standard dashboards. So again, this is just a few. There are more than this, but these are the ones that Blackbaud already has built. So there's a nice overview one showing acquisition information, actions, opportunities, funds, and things like that. Um, and the acquisition dashboard, that one shows new donors or donors who lapsed for more than 5 years and compares number of donors and revenue amount to the prior year. Benchmarking. So benchmarking compares the organization fundraising metrics to other NXT users. This is a newer one, and I love this. So we're going to take a look at that benchmarking dashboard. The recapture dashboard. So this one shows donors who have given after not having given for a period of 15 months. And then retention shows donors who gave during the current and previous fiscal year and compares them to similar donors from previous years. So answering kind of where do we stand? So I wanted to dive right into this benchmarking dashboard just because I think it's so exciting. So here you can benchmark either against all other organizations using Razor's Edge, or you can do it against specific industries. So benchmark against your own industry. So I included over on the right there that list. So you would just check the check box that applies to you. And then you would see that the options on the screen and the benchmarks would all change. So it gives feedback and recommendations. It looks at things like retention and recapture. So you can see here from the screenshot, not only does it tell you how you're doing, but also recommends some links. So it'll send you to a retention dashboard. It'll send you to a list of at-risk donors, can give you some best practice information. So I love this. I think that this is very, very cool. And this really answers in the moment, how are we doing compared to others? I wouldn't, get too caught up in the moment as I would say if you look at these, don't let it stress you out. Instead, let it empower you. Because I'm realizing in the moment that if you go and look at these and it tells you it needs work, don't stress. Use this as a helpful tool to maybe help you do things better. Okay, we have a question about getting the copy of the slides. So this is great information, so thank you. Carrie, I can follow up with you about that. And then how do you know what Blackbaud has you classified as? I work at a zoo, which could be animal welfare, arts, culture, or environment. Yeah, I love that zoos actually are part of the museum association. I was a museum gal for a while. My suggestion actually would be don't limit yourself to what Blackbaud has you classified as. I would say in this benchmarking, check them all out. Why not? See how you're looking against all of those. I mean, more information, the better. All right, custom dashboards. So these can be around any metrics, events, KPI, donor insights, and it's definitely more powerful with the Insight Designer piece. You can build dashboards without it. The cost for that, I think it's around 2,400 a year. I think check in with your Blackbaud rep around that. If you add that piece in, you can include attributes, you can design some different chart types, you can apply more filters. So this will really, this tells you how are our metrics performing, how are the metrics that I care about performing. So these can be around almost any metrics. So here, just pulled this in from some dashboards, what they can look like in general. So they can have tiles, which is what you're seeing here. So maybe across the top have some tiles around total giving, total received, numbers of donors. And then you can see across the very top, you can filter on a date range. You can filter on fund description, campaign, appeal category, package category. So anything you want, you can build into those filters. The same with some donor insights, so donor comparisons with individuals and organizations. Here, this one's for a specific dashboard around appeal insights. Last year total giving to specific appeals, last year total received. And then down below in all of these would be different tables and graphs and charts. Again, the sky's kind of the limit with these within your NXT data. You can even do planned giving, which is kind of great. So this helps you kind of keep an eye on what's out there in terms of solicitation meetings, things in the pipeline. And you can see if you look in the top center there, you can filter on the constituent fundraiser type, the fundraiser name. So for our major gift folks who would want this just to show their metrics, you can do that. You could select more than one if you manage a major gift team to be able to see how certain parts of your team are doing. So again, this is a really great one to build out. Donor status monitor that we built here. And so this shows around the life cycle of acquired, retained, recaptured, at risk, lapsing, and lapsed. Now, those are specific to Blackbaud. They have very specific definitions around who's lapsing, who's lapsed. Worth it to go and try and find those definitions if you're going to do something like this, like a life cycle timeline. All right, Power BI, the fun stuff. So Power BI combines both reporting and dashboards, and you can really transform your data, and it's built for deeper analysis. The power of Power BI is that when you, even in Excel, sometimes when you're trying to report on data and pivoting the data, I love a good pivot table. There's times that when you just can't connect the pieces of data that you want to connect. And with Power BI, you can really connect all kinds of different pieces of data to be able to really get a bigger, better picture of what's going on in your database. Power BI works with Power Query. So Power Query is sort of the link between your data that's sitting in Excel and the beautiful reports and tables and charts that you want in Power BI. What Power Query does is it cleans up your data. So in Excel, you sort of put your data into Power Query, and you don't have to use it with Power BI. You can use Power Query for other things, but it cleans up your data. It kind of standardizes it. You can transform it, and you need to do it to put it into Power BI. The nice thing is once you have kind of the cleaning steps that you want built into Power Query, then you can just use that over and over and over again. So if you have stuff in Power BI that you want to be constantly updating, you can just keep running it through that same Power Query without having to reinvent the wheel every time, and then just have it append onto that data, which is then picked up by Power BI. So what does all this mean? Okay, so Power BI can provide interactive dashboards, as we talked about, can show trend analysis in a really powerful way, and is really good for forecasting. So none of the other things that we've talked about so far, whether it's your reports or your dashboards, are really great for forecasting. Reports kind of show what has happened, dashboards kind of show what's happening now, and Power BI can help you forecast what's going to happen, what should we do next. So here's one. I have two samples of a Power BI sample. Now, neither of these are very chart or graph heavy. You can include things like heat maps. You can even include geographic maps, with information on them. I mean, if you can think of a type of a chart or a graph, Power BI can do it. But in this case, this is just giving since fiscal year 21. And in this case, the information needed was really around those gift levels. So, what's the percent of total giving? What are those giving levels by fiscal year? Kind of showing it there in a chart. And then showing a year over year from 2021 up through to 2026. You can, with all of these, put slicers in. So let's say that for your Power BI chart here or piece here, you wanted this only to look at a certain fund. Well, as long as you've exported all that fund information along with your gifts, you can put in what are called slicers that can filter the data just like that. It'll change, and they'll all change at the same time. So as long as you exported that data, you could do it around funds, you could do it around appeals, you could do it around attributes. I mean, just anything you could do it around constituent codes. Anything that you've pulled out of the database, you can put into Power BI and use it as a data point in all of this. So this one shows pledges and pledged payments since fiscal year 21. So the total pledged, payments received, outstanding balances, what's the percentage collected. So it sort of shows how you're doing with collecting on your pledges. And you can see down below looking at pledged and received by fiscal year, and then pledged and outstanding balance by fiscal year. And the colors that were used here in both of these, you can use all kinds of colors. They have some pre-built palettes that you can just drop in, or of course, if you want to have it show your organization's colors, you can do that. The same if you have a font your organization needs to use, you can work around that. You can get very designy in Power BI. So, very, very helpful there. So a couple of examples. Let's say you want donor retention by acquisition source over 5 years. So which donors stay longest depending on how they were acquired. So for an example, your Gala acquired donors retain at 42%, direct mail donors retain at 28%, peer-to-peer donors at 55%. So NXT would struggle with this. But Power BI can really bring this data together very, very easily. You can use those slicers I was talking about to show this data by campaign, gift level, age, region. So again, doing something that NXT would have a hard time with. Major donor pipeline forecasting. What is likely to close this quarter based on historic behavior? So the number of open opportunities gives you a likely close estimate, and can also flag at-risk proposals. So, NXT could show you the number of open opportunities, but those other pieces it would struggle with. But Power BI can do probability weighting, trends, solicitor comparisons, things like that. So a board dashboard that actually means something. So could we give our board members just one page that explains the health of our fundraising efforts? Yes. So you could show your new donors year to date, your retention percents, average gift trends, campaign progress. In this case, using campaign more as like a building campaign, something like that. a lapsed donor count, and a 3-year giving trajectory. Imagine having just all of that, on one page that you could just have out for your board of directors on the table when they come to meet. This is the kind of thing that you could build with your data, but that's going to take you some time. Whereas Power BI, quarterly, you could just update this for every board meeting. So a nice clean dashboard with all the filters. So here, looking at households or network giving. So what families or networks are giving across multiple records. We all struggle sometimes when both spouses have a record, if they have a family foundation that's giving separately, if a business owner gifts personally and then does a corporate match. So being able to distill that information down into clean, clear information. Gift officer performance. Now, we did see that you can monitor that with the dashboards, but here you could really drill down into which of the activities going on can lead to gifts. More meetings, better. Looking around the number of proposals submitted, the close rate, average days to close, and revenue per portfolio. So some real world scenarios for understanding what to use when. So for your standard dashboard or standard reports, these are best for your board and your CEO for official numbers. They're quick, they're clean, fairly easy to use. Your dashboards. So your dashboards are best for monitoring your metrics. So checking in on the health of appeals, how are those appeals doing? If you do have a capital campaign going, maybe build out a dashboard that has everything you'd want to see, combining proposals and various appeals, whether they're email or direct mail, the total number of donors, the outstanding pledges. So it's good for a quick in the moment, real time snapshot. And then Power BI is best for those complex connections. Really useful for strategy. Although, as we saw, also could be really great for a nice board one sheet, or even if you wanted something for a really involved, major gift donor, and you wanted to show them, some metrics around the health of the organization, you could use Power BI for that as well. So standard reports can tell you how much did we raise, could tell you that very easily. Dashboards, how are we doing this month? If that's what you need to know, use a dashboard. Power BI, it's your analysis. Why is this happening and what should we do next? So for those, you would want to use Power BI. Common mistakes. So with so many tools at your disposal, it's easy to choose the wrong tool for the job. So your reports, the standard canned reports, you wouldn't want to use those for analysis. That's just not what they're built for. So that would be a common mistake. Also, forcing your NXT dashboards too far, putting too many bells and whistles on them, especially if you have the insights designer, it's really easy to do that because it's really fun. But if you really try to make them do too much at one time, they're just not going to function very well, and they're not going to give you the metrics that you need. Jumping into Power BI too soon. So as we heard from that very early on question, someone talked about how they're trying to learn Power BI and getting frustrated with it. So I would say with Power BI, if that's something that you're interested in, it's not even so much too soon. Maybe I kind of misspoke there, but it's more trying to do too much too soon in Power BI, because that way madness lies. Definitely start small, pick out, one thing that you think is interesting, get your data, and then try to just build a table around that one thing. And maybe try to build a chart around that one thing, and then add something into that. So just build on each success instead of trying to build out that whole board report as your first thing that you do in Power BI. And definitely take advantage of things like YouTube and the Microsoft tutorials. I was really impressed with those Microsoft tutorials. And then this is our big thou shalt not. Keeping data on external spreadsheets if it should be in your database. The reason a lot of people end up doing that is because their database maybe is not in the best of shape. So if you find yourself keeping data on a lot of external spreadsheets, ask yourself why and what it would take to get your database into a place where now you can finally bring that data in and have it make sense. Because if you are keeping this data over here on a spreadsheet and your colleague has this piece of data over here on a spreadsheet, it's going to get forgotten about. People move on, and also you're missing connections. You're missing connecting data points. So if nothing else, take away that you should not keep data on external spreadsheets if possible. All right. So the big remembers that reports show facts, your dashboards give visibility, Power BI provides understanding to what you're looking at, and that better data analytics absolutely support better decisions. So at the end of the day, these are all tools for you to be able to help your organization do what they're doing, but even better. Okay. There were some great questions as we went along. Are there any other questions now that anyone wants to ask? One thing also that I would say is try and play around with these. Again, I know that our time is all valuable and limited, but if nothing else, look at the breadth of the reports that are in NXT. I think you'd be really, really impressed with what's in there. And so think about, hey, is this something that I've been really spending a lot of my time building queries and building exports? And oh my gosh, here's a report that will do that for me. So take a look at them and also think about how maybe you could use that scheduling feature because I really do think that that's a pretty cool and powerful thing to have access to. All right. So if there's no questions, that is great. You'll get a little bit of time back today. I do want to share that our next session for May is going to be the Strategic Gift Officer using data to drive stronger donor relationships. This will be a panel discussion. So May 19th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So thank you so much. And I hope that everyone has a wonderful rest of their day. Oh, and also to remind you that there'll be a link on the website to be able to look at this presentation and all the other ones, and you will get an email with the link. So thank you so much and have a wonderful rest of your day.